So here we are on the first morning of the most important date on the petrolhead's calendar, Birmingham NEC's Classic Motor Show. And it's also a real treat for me to get in early and have a good look around before the doors open for today's expected crowd of over 25,000 people. And it's always nice to see an array of British motor cars flying the flag amongst the many European and US contingent. And of course, I'm also pleased to be here once again, flying the flag for one of my show's main sponsors, Footman James, and also to be able to meet some of the show's viewers and simply chew the fat about our personal classic cars. It's a pretty full-on 3 days, filled with interviews, meeting car clubs and stage appearances. It's also a great opportunity to indulge in everything classic throughout this packed 7 halls extravaganza. And it's also nice to share the stage once again with Mike Brewer, who this year celebrates his 20th year at the legendary show Wheeler Dealers.
I'm going to say, me, Gary have said it, you've said it. This year, I mean, the last few years I can see there's been a step change in terms of the quality of classic cars that have been at the show. But cars just look so much better than they've ever looked. There are cars here that have gone through restoration 2, maybe 3 times, and they are far exceeding what they were when they rolled off the production line. You can see technology now is making our older cars last a lot longer and also look better than when they were brand new.
I think it's also to do with the amount of classic car programs on the TV, encouraging people to have a golden star.
That'll be it.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Especially the really big ones that are celebrating a birthday. Gary, what have you learnt this weekend? Have you seen anything you want to buy?
Lots of things I want to buy. I've never really been into American cars, and I've been really impressed with the ones I've seen at the show.
Lovely, aren't they?
I mean, I can feel myself coming round to maybe getting one and, restoring one. There's a couple of Cadillacs. There's like an old 40s, 50s one, either side of the Kaiser, and there's like a 70s one.
Yeah, so this is the Cadillac Eldorado, which was probably the state's answer to the Rolls-Royce, I suppose, or the Mercedes 600 of the time. These were the kind of cars that were driven by the likes of Hollywood stars. Like, I read a book on John Cassavetes, the American actor, and he used to drive around Hollywood in one of these with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. You can just see him in it now, What a beautiful car. I mean, pure luxury at its best. Well-built cars. Look at the beautiful paint job on this. Really luxurious interior. These cars just used to float. These were the ones to have if you had money. Now this is a really unusual car. It's called a Kaiser Darren. I think it's a 1954 car. I think they only made about 430 of them or something. But the unusual thing about this is the doors are sliding on wheels into the inside of the front wing, which was incredible for the time. 1954 we're talking about. And the unusual thing about this was it was a fiberglass body car, which I think it was only the second fiberglass body car behind the Corvette, I think. And over here we've got, this is probably the Marilyn Monroe era, this Cadillac. Wouldn't like to hit a pedestrian with one of these, would you? What a thing of beauty. That's just a piece of art, isn't it? And again, America's finest. America's Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Mercedes-Benz. These were the finest cars that were ever built in America, I think. Pure luxury, pure quality, pure class. Just imagine Marilyn Monroe or Clark Gable in one of these. I mean, look at this. This is literally a rocket ship, isn't it? It was indicative of what was going on at the time, the race for space and all the rest of it. Like something you see in a fairground now, isn't it? Fabulous. And it's hard to believe it's 20 years since Wheeler Dealers, the show responsible for kickstarting this whole classic car phenomenon back in 2003, and how this community and industry has grown and changed since then. It was a real honour to be able to share the celebrations along with everyone else, and have the XJS take pride of place next to Mike's beloved camper van on the Wheeler Dealer stand. And also equally as special to invite the Jag's previous owners, Daryl and Keith, down to reunite with their old friend. A moment made even more poignant by the 3-minute silence marking Armistice Sunday in respect of the servicemen and women who have served this country.
Not old, as that we are left grow old. Age should not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Repeat, we will remember them. Thank you.
Seeing Daryl and Keith again takes me back down memory lane, evoking many happy memories. Now this also brings back memories. When I was about 17 years old, I worked in a butcher's shop, and Ken Dodd, the comedian, pulled up in one of these. This was his everyday car. He used to have a little hat on, he used to drive everywhere in it like a dog-tooth coat. And he came in one day and he said, have you got any bones for the dog? And we spent about 20 minutes on a bandsaw, great big marrow bones, all meat hanging off them. Filled about 6 carrier bags full. There you go, Ken. Just give us 50 pence. And he went, what? I've got to pay for bones. You can, oh. We were like this. It took us about 20 minutes sawing through all the bones. But yet, this was his everyday car, like a Burgundy one of these. A Wolseley Hornet, I think it's called. Lovely little thing. I mean, look at the size of the wheels. That's what you get on a wheelbarrow, isn't it? A lovely back end on them as well. There you go, Wolseley Hornet Mark III. Ken Dodd, R.I.P. Now this evokes childhood memories. These police cars were everywhere when we were little kids. Brings back memories, cheeky little lad. They had these, they had a Mini in the same colour obviously. And they were just everywhere when we were kids. If you ever got into any kind of trouble, you'd come round the corner, everyone would leg it in different directions. And they also had like a disabled car in exactly the same colour. Obviously not the police. It was a car for disabled people. And I remember it had like bike handlebars to steer it with. And they were just everywhere when we were kids, and you don't see them anymore. Obviously police cars have come a long way since this. My father had one of these. It was an Austin 1100 with the hydroelastic suspension. This is obviously a GT version. And I think they did like a Van den Pla version, you know, with like the wooden dash. My granddad had one, my father had one. And of course, they all suffer from the dreaded rot. Yeah, even the smell just brings back loads of memories. Now I'm not going to say this brings back many memories. This is a little bit before my time. It's probably 1950s this, isn't it? 40s or 50s. Charabang as we used to call them. I used to go out with a fishing club, a course fishing club at weekends, and one of the clubs had one of these, and it always used to break down. When we got like to mid Wales and we were going up a hill, we'd all be going, come on, come on, and some of us had to jump out, or it wouldn't make the top of the hill, and then we'd all get back in again, and then go down the hill. But look at that, what a piece of art. What a beautiful thing that is. I always think these would make a great camper van, you know, to tour around in. Get a decent diesel engine in. Fantastic. Do you think people used to go on the holidays in these? Yeah, they certainly don't make them like this anymore. And we always used to fight for the back seat as well. If you got on the back, you were the big wheel. You were the king of the gang, king of the kids. Look at this as well. It's got like a bar. You know, you'd have the driver and no one could go past here. But all the kids would be standing here holding the bar, talking to the driver. Fabulous. And on to another personal favourite of mine, the Gordon Keeble, a British sports car with European and US influences, made here briefly in the 1960s. So, you're a little bit of an aficionado on the Gordon Keeble,
Well,
would you say?
I'm enthusiastic about them, that's for sure.
These have always been one of my favourite cars.
It's been like that for me because I'm an age when these were the cars that you wanted when you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to buy one doesn't come through very often, that's for
So
sure.
what drew you to buy one? I mean, it's an incredible story, isn't it? They were made at Southampton Airport for a while, weren't they? They were Italian styling. They had an American V8. Was it 327 short block?
That's exactly right.
One-piece aluminium floor? Fiberglass car?
No, it's not a one-piece aluminium floor. It's a tubed chassis.
Oh, it's a steel
picture.
tubular chassis,
Yes,
yeah.
it's a completely tubular chassis.
I think the floor is one-piece aluminium, you know that.
It could be one piece. I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure about that. To
And
be
I
honest.
think what you do is, when you're rebuilding them, it's a good idea to do it in a one-piece stainless steel.
That's the best bet you can do, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you own one of these, obviously.
I own chassis 81,
That's a late one.
fairly late, in 1965. The real reason that got to me about it is I think it's a beautiful looking car.
Yeah.
It should be infinitely reliable, straightforward, simple, short block V8 engine, beautifully styled fiberglass body, and room to get the grandkids in the back.
I love the cockpit. It's like an aeroplane.
It is like an aeroplane.
I don't know whether they were influenced by the fact that they built them at Southampton Airport. But
Well, they were
it
built
certainly
in-
seems that way.
Well, it was the same factory that Spitfires were originally built in.
Really?
So you can imagine that there's a little bit of leaning towards.
They should have stuck the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine in this.
Well, there is a car with a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine here. You know that.
Do you know? I'll tell you a story. I did a play many years ago, and we were put up in a place called Froome. We used to do like one show every night in different places. And when I woke up the next, you never knew where you were going to wake up. And I woke up, it was a Sunday morning, and I needed to get to the station to get back to London. And the guy said, "I'll give you a lift." And he took me through all these little back roads and country roads. And I looked to me right, and there was just all this high grass, and you could see like the roofs of these like huts. I said, "You know what that reminds me of? Like a Spitfire base." No, man, it's funny you mentioned that. Some guy bought the land a few years ago. He cut all the grass down. And one of those huts, he opened the doors, and there was two huge crates. And beyond it, there was a fireplace with the beer glasses and the bunting over the fire. And it was just like a pocket in time where the war had finished. They closed the doors after the party, and the grass grew around it. You know what was in the crates? Two brand new Rolls-Royce Merlin engines. What a story. And that was in
Absolutely.
Froome in Somerset.
Absolutely amazing.
So what number's this?
This one is number 52.
Yeah. Is it locked? Can we look inside it?
I think it's locked. To be perfect. Oh, no, it's
No,
not.
it's open. Wow.
There you go.
Look at that. These were probably the quickest cars on the road, weren't they, at the time?
I think at the time it was produced, it was the fastest four-seater car in the world. Mainly only for a brief period of time.
And is this original colour, do you know?
Very few cars are in the original colours. This isn't my car. I have a feeling it's probably always been blue. There's the owner. But this car I know was in France for quite a long time. It's been the whole bodywork was restored in France.
There's nothing like the smell of fuel and leather, is there?
Well, you can't avoid the smell of fuel at
Jeez, he must be high as a kite driving
at
that.
16 to the gallon.
16 to the gallon. Wow.
But you know, I've always thought it as a gentleman's motor car.
don't they run these on aircraft fuel as well?
But when you start it up, you change from a gentleman to a hooligan, basically, because they sound so dramatic when you start them up.
Wow. What a beautiful car.
It is a lovely example.
I'd love to own one of these one day, you know.
Well, you better talk to your bank manager before you decide to.
I don't need to. I'll just steal it. No, I'd love to own one of these, and I'd cherish it, and I think I'd keep it forever.
Well, it's so exclusive. I mean, it's a quarter of the price of an Aston Martin.
Yeah.
And
quicker.
As quick, at least.
Well, there's no weight in them because they're steel tubular frame.
Yeah.
I think it's 1 inch, is it? 1 inch tubular steel frame.
Yeah, one inch tubes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty simple, but
and 4-wheel disc brakes. You've got all the performance you would ever need.
Yeah.
And far more exclusive than your Bond Aston, really.
They're a bit of a dinosaur, aren't they? But you know, and they're an acquired taste, I think. But
I think
they really grow on you. They're a bit of a beautiful dinosaur.
I think the problem is that people are not all that aware of them.
Yeah.
But if they were,
that's a good thing.
Yes, it is for the owners. That's for sure.
And what's the club like? Is it a bit clicky, but snobby?
No, it's not. Not at all. Look, there's every. I mean, a lot of the owners have got grey hair. That's for sure. Yeah. It's because of the year that the car was produced. That's the car that we all dreamt of having. But
I think if I bought one of these and joined the club, I think there'd be an uproar, don't you? They'd be going, get him out, he's a scumbag.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. You know, there's every facet of society belongs to the club. You know. Yeah. Well, I'm a very ordinary bloke.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so is everybody else in the club, as far as I can see.
With an extraordinary car.
With an extraordinary car, but we all share that extraordinary car. Yeah. John, who's got the red car there, he's had it for 45 years.
You know, I was speaking to a gentleman came over to the Footman James stand before, and he had the Lotus badge on and all that. I think he was part of the club, and he said, you know what, I used to work with Ernie Knott.
All right.
Is it Bracknell?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, I was only a young lad, you know, a teenager or whatever, and he used to do bits of body work for him. They wouldn't allow him to paint them. But he was doing all the rubbing down and stuff like that.
Yeah, in fact, that guy's been over and talked to us on the stand.
Yeah, and he used to get me to, he used to sell the models, like the models of the car, and he said, I used to paint them, spend hours painting them.
Yeah. Well, Ernie Knott's wife was here on Friday.
Yeah.
So she's still involved with the club.
Yeah. Len, really enjoyed the chat. Thank you
so
much.
Well, thanks for your time.
No, it's great. And you must be a very proud owner of one of these.
Very
beautiful,
much so.
Very rare car.
Yeah.
All the best. Have a great day.
Good. Enjoy.
And on to yet another one of my personal favourites. So here I am with Dave from DPM Auto Body, yeah? Tell me about this beautiful car. These are my absolute favourites of all time. These.
So it's a 1963 Bentley Continental Series 3. Came into us for a full restoration on the body.
What was it like? Was it completely shot?
It wasn't too bad, to be fair, but it was about, I think, 10 or 11 coats of paint we had to strip off. And then the whole bottom half had just been so badly bodged beforehand. Again, if you see some of the photos and on our YouTube, the video we did of some of the stuff we came across, it was awful.
Didn't these have about 12 coats of paint anyway? From the factory?
They did. This had 12 different colours.
Weren't they hand painted and then flattened and polished?
Yeah, so they all Bentley and Rolls-Royce were all painted by hand.
Yeah.
So again, being coach built as well, they all vary slightly when how they're built. So we ended up remaking pretty much the whole bottom half of it, including all the scuttle panel around here as well. You can't buy any panels for it unless they're actually handmade by Bentley themselves.
I mean, it must have had a pretty tough life to be that kind of corroded, because they're so well kind of corrosion proof, aren't they?
They are in some ways, and not. Some of the designs on it are so poor.
What have you done there, Dave?
Oh, that's a bit
sealed, yeah?
Yeah, it's a bit of piping that runs through all the panels there, so where you've got the joins on them.
And who does your chrome?
So it was Derby Plating that did our chroming, which are just opposite us over here at the
yeah,
show.
I think I saw the stand, yeah.
Yeah.
I use Douglas Chrome in Kent.
Yeah, I think
I
I remember
swear
you
by
saying
them,
about
been using them for years.
But yeah, so we handmade all the lower repair sections for the bottom half of it. We then go through our gapping process, of course, getting all the door gaps and everything all aligned. And then
How long did it take, the full restoration?
For the body, it was about 1,200 hours.
1,200 hours, yeah. It's not too bad when you think about it.
No, not considering what was made, what had to be made for it, yeah.
I love this. I love the thin Bakelite steering wheel.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
I've got a couple of Corniche drop heads.
Yeah.
And, it's very similar inside. Oh, Dave, come on. No, they're really heavy doors, I know.
They're big old doors, yeah. They've got a chain-driven window mechanism in there.
Yeah?
Yeah, so it's a lot of work in there.
Tell me, is this original or should it be the Everflex? Is it the plastic?
From what we believe, this is meant to be the original that was on there beforehand. The hood was quite shot beforehand, and then this was what was done by our associates at SM Trimming. So it's a full coach built.
SM Trimming, yeah. I did mine myself.
Right, okay.
And
was it challenging?
It's very challenging, yeah. It's one of them jobs, Dave. Once, never again.
Yeah,
never say never.
No, exactly. You've always got to give it a go.
Well, I've just bought another convertible, so gubbins here. I'm going to end up doing it myself, aren't I?
How long do you think it took you to do the hood yourself?
It took me nearly 5 weeks.
Blimey, right, so it was a long process.
But I believe 3 or 4 guys at Rolls-Royce back in the day, it took them 3 to 4 weeks. So I suppose I haven't done too badly.
No, definitely not, no.
But I think they were only working 9 to 5. I was going through the night sometimes. I think that the trick is, though, in the West of England cloth, is getting that curve, getting it pulled tight, getting your seam straight.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd never used a sewing machine before, so it was a challenge and a half,
but it was,
yeah. And what's, can I open the boot, look inside?
You can indeed, yeah. We've got quite a few of our
it's probably
supplies in
full
there.
of sandwiches and all that, Oh yeah, I just wanted to see this. I was curious because that's carpet, yeah.
Yeah.
On the cornices and the shadows. And I know we're talking about a Bentley and it's a Rolls-Royce, but it was basically the same frame, wasn't it? It's leather here. One piece leather on a piece of aluminium, I think. Let's see the way it shuts. It's perfect.
There you go, that's what you want, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big boot lid as well, so.
Yeah. I think your hood's fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, he's done an absolutely lovely job on it. It really sort of complements the restoration.
That's a nuisance, but I've got the same on mine.
Yeah.
Is that the cables? Or?
I think that's the cables that run through that run the tension on it. And I think before you put it down, you don't get the show of it. But of course, once you put it down, you get that slight crease.
And you should put your piece of material here.
Yeah, it's something we're going to be
piece of West of England cloth, so when it falls down, it doesn't scratch there.
Yeah, it's something that we've got to pass on to our client.
It's a shame it isn't glass on one of these cars.
It would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Dave, thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you
I've actually seen this video on YouTube. I've just remembered.
Yeah.
Well done. You do a great job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I mean, it speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the show.
You too. Thank you.
What would you buy in 50 rather that's being made now? It's going to be a good, cheap classic.
I really like a Hyundai i20M. Fantastic little hot hatch. They're around 18, 20 grand in 2050, which is many, many years from now, but that's going to be a 1,000 pound hot hatch.
It's going to be a Mini, isn't it? I mean, the Mini will be still a phenomenal little car in 2050, and it'll be a really good, usable classic. If you walk up to a Mini one, an original one, and just cup the rear of the wing mirror, just go up to the wing mirror, and I'm sure they won't mind, just cup the wing mirror. That's Frank Stephenson's wife's boobie. Genuinely, that's her bra. He wanted it designed so it felt like her boobies.
Lucky man.
He originally designed the wing mirrors with the repeater signal in the wing mirror as a nipple. And BMW thought that was a bit too far, so they took that away.
What do you reckon, Gary?
Well, a little bit left field, but my XJS there, only about 4 or 5 years ago, you could pick one of them up for about £1,000. And they've really appreciated in the last few years, and I think in 25 years' time, they'll really stand the test of time. And I think they were a bit of a dinosaur when they were first designed, but they're sort of really coming into their own now. They look actually futuristic. I think they're a great car, and they've come up already, and I think in 25 years' time, they'll be a real classic.
On your own show, what's the best car you've played with?
a very, very high mileage Skoda Octavia that I named Miles.
One of my favourites, my brother had a Toyota Land Cruiser in 1977. It was in a real mess. I mean, when you used to turn left, the body used to lift off the chassis and then fall back on. I mean, it was a proper shit box, you know. And it had these wide wheels on, the steering had snapped, it was banana yellow. And I went right through it and brought it back to stock, put the proper wheels back on. I thought they were the best four-wheel drive in the world at the time, and they're still right up there now. I'm going to finish with it. It was a beautiful car.
My favourite wheeler dealer car, I've got many wheeler dealer cars. I suppose if I had to choose one ultimate favourite, it's that one right there, it's the Transit. I just love it. It puts such a smile on my face.
Thank you, Mike. By the way, happy birthday, wheeler dealers.
Thank you, mate. Do you know what? I'm going to say this as well. It's 20 years of wheeler dealers, and lots of people celebrating it with me. But I'm not saying this because it's a cliche, and it's easy for me to say. To share that 20th anniversary up on stage with Alex, with you, Danny, with Gary, with Dougie, with Andrea, Abby, Richard, Michelle, Cheryl, the organising team has been really, really special. I was in Afghanistan doing a documentary that I wrote for Discovery Channel, and it was a very dangerous place where I was. I was in a region called Patika, which is like the curry sauce. That's where it's named after. It's at the foot of the Hindu Kush Mountains, and the Taliban were pouring over the mountains, bombing the base, and it got really, really dangerous. It was continual mortars on the base. It got so dangerous that Discovery Channel decided to evacuate me as quickly as possible. So they put me on the first troop transporter, and I was waiting at the airport in the morning with my cameraman, waiting for the next C-47 to come in and rescue me. And 8 Special Forces American guys come marching past, and you can tell they're Special Forces. They are big guys, 8 foot tall, black beards, black polo tops, black combat trousers, black boots, massive watches. And they come past as a platoon, and in between them they had this guy's head, and they were pushing it down to the ground. And this poor guy, he was being frog marched from one place to another, and as he come past, having his head held down like this, he went, "Wheeler dealer!" And they stopped, and he looked up, and he was trying to explain to the Special Forces soldiers who I was. "Wheeler dealer, it's Mike, it's Wheeler dealer." He was a Taliban operative that they captured, and basically they didn't know who I was, the Americans, so they just stood around for a second whilst he's trying to talk to me and explain who I was. Eventually they just pushed his head back down, and as he went to be rolled off again, he just shouted at me, "Do a Toyota Hi-Ace!"
Gary, I want your view on what a great starter classic would be.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I mean, I had this discussion with Fuzz Townsend a few months ago, and I think it's really hard to pick a future classic now, because I think since like the 90s, all cars seem to look the same or very similar. You know, you look back to the 1960s, and the difference between a 1960s car and a 1970s car was phenomenal. And then a 1980s car was like streets different from that car. And then when we got to the 90s, everything just went the same. So I think it's really difficult to pick a future classic. It's just go with your heart, really. You know, what takes your fancy. When I arrived on Thursday and I was looking where to put the car, Mike said, "Put it next to mine, put it next to the camper." Now that car was owned by my old landlady that I lived with for 6 years when I was making P practice, and it was a pride and joy through the 80s and the 90s. And it was in a barn for 11 years, and she gave it to me. Now, I recommissioned it, got it on the road again, and she hasn't been well, and she came today, and she saw Mike's speech as soon as she moved in, you know, the poem you did before the 2-minute silence, and then she saw where the car was right in front of the stage, and it made her life. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, good.
It really moved me, you know.
Oh, mate, that's a lovely story. What an honour.
And as the sound of sirens deafens all 7 holes and brings to a close a tremendous weekend, I hope I've given you all a taste of what I think is simply one of the best classic car shows on the planet. Thank you for watching this episode of Classic Obsession. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. And see you all next time.